UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is calling it quits after 59 members of his government, approximately half its payroll, resigned rather than working another day with him. Of course, Boris doesn't give up a party easily, as he's proven throughout his tenure, and will continue as leader of the Conservative Party until the conclusion of another tedious process to find a new, non-elected successor. It has been a tumultuous period of leadership for the 58-year-old former London mayor, who has presided over once-in-a-lifetime events, including Brexit, a global pandemic, and the climate crisis, which saw summer temperatures in England reach a record equaling 17.1 degrees. James Plushfoot looks back on what has certainly been a fascinating career.
A lovable oaf with a silly way with words.
I know there has been a certain raucous caucus from the anti-AUKUS caucus.
Boris Johnson managed to make politics look like fun since being elevated to Prime Ministership unelected in July 2019. His unique style and good looks propelled Johnson to an overwhelming December election victory around the same time a novel coronavirus was rising to prominence unelected in Wuhan, China, an opponent that ultimately ended his tenure just over 3 years after it started. For many, the Boris years will be remembered in a haze of debate surrounding the UK's plans to exit the European Union and a pandemic that shuttered lives and businesses around the world for over 2 years. But Johnson's carefree attitude and witty repartee
Good luck with your preposterous ideas.
Thank you very much.
were a much appreciated point of difference in global politics. Who could forget Boris the Brave? Boris the Bard,
What
Great
is it?
supine protoplasmic invertebrate jellies.
Boris the Baller, Boris the Bonghead,
They roll up a spliff and quietly smoke it together.
or everybody's favourite, Boris the bumbling bus building bloke.
What do you do to switch off?
I like to, I make things. I like to...
What do you make?
I have a thing where I make buses.
You make models of buses.
I make models of buses.
Boris Johnson was unrivaled in his ability to get things done in short periods of time, never afraid to turn 180 degrees in order to ensure an outcome. We asked INN's favourite sports reporter Joe Sockick to count down the top turnarounds of Boris Johnson's career.
August 28, 2019. Boris announces he'll shut down Parliament until mid-October to stop his opponents from thwarting his no-Brexit deal. Before the UK Supreme Court rules the government's suspension of Parliament was unlawful just 27 days later. September 5, 2019. Boris suggests he'd rather be dead in a ditch than ask the EU for another Brexit extension. Before asking the EU for another Brexit extension 44 days later. March 23, 2020. Johnson places the UK in lockdown in an effort to stop the spread of COVID-19, before being hospitalised and placed in intensive care with COVID-19 13 days later. November 5, 2020. Johnson orders a second national lockdown before organising a party at his flat and inviting his mates round on November 13, 8 days later.
But despite all of these achievements, many in formation renewed their collective outrage when Johnson insisted people resume taking responsibility for themselves just 565 days after the start of the pandemic. Johnson's replacement has yet to be confirmed, but will likely be a choice between former chartered accountant Liz Truss and former hedge fund manager Rishi Sunak. And with candidates as interesting as them, the good times are set to continue. James Plushfoot, INN News.